be back, McGraw. It's been a while.
Yeah, you did a poll. Is this a Quinnipiac poll, Ipsos poll, Washington Post poll? What kind of poll is this?
No, we have a software program that we use for communicating with our members, and it's got a survey tool on it. So that's what we use to get these numbers. About a quarter of the police department's officers responded to the poll, and the numbers are stark.
Okay, so as of let's look at the numbers. So 25% of your membership responded to this arbitrary survey.
Yes.
Okay. There are 124 officers right now that the city is short. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean that's normal attrition? You're hiring 124 next season? Or does that mean you can't find 124 more people who want to be St. Louis City police officers?
It's the last one. I mean, the problem we have is we can't hire people as quickly as we're losing them. We've been consistently around 100 officers down for the last 3 years. This is a high watermark as far as a manpower crisis goes. To be 124 officers down means that, for instance, this public cry for community policing, we don't even have the time and the manpower to answer calls for service, 911 calls, and that means that doing anything extra like engaging more with the community is an impossibility. And then to add on to that this mayor is declaring war on overtime, which means that now people are just going to be calling for the police, and they're not going to be there.
Yeah, explain that. She said no more overtime?
Yeah, she's made a big deal about overtime and ignoring the facts. In 2015, according to the comptroller, we were $5 million over on the overtime budget, but we're $11 million short on our salary budget because of those perpetual vacancies. So the mayor at the time, Francis Slay, very courageously said, hey, we're going to use this money that we're not spending on these vacancies on overtime so that there's officers on the street. And to criticize that in retrospect is just a disservice to the people and the truth.
All right, 124 officers short. How many officers do you have now in the city of St. Louis?
1,191, I believe, was the last number here.
That's almost 10% of the people, right?
Right. Yeah. This is a major crisis. I mean, we're not overstating things when we call this a crisis, and it's about to get worse, as you pointed out at the opening here. St. Louis County just passed an $80 million sales tax increase. They're devoting that money, not just in the county, but in all the municipalities in the county. They're devoting that money to raising police salaries and hiring more cops. And the biggest pool of police officers in the region is the St. Louis Police Department. And, when there's a $13,000, $15,000, $17,000 pay gap, those guys are going to start looking other places. And in no time, we're going to be 225 officers down.
All right.
That spells disaster.
So you did a survey of your membership. 25% of the 1,100 or so officers responded. You asked them point blank, are you looking at jobs in other places?
Right.
And what did they say?
20% of them had already applied in other places in the last year. 43% said that, in addition to that 20%, 43% said that they were planning on applying somewhere in the next year. So a total of 63% had either applied or were thinking about applying. When you told them about the St. Louis County raise, that number jumped by 10%, up to 73%. So almost three-quarters of the department is considering leaving in the next 12 months. And if that doesn't sound alarm bells, I don't know what does.
Were you shocked by that number?
Yeah, the reason we did this survey was because I speculated that we were looking at the possibility of losing 100 officers, and some of the alt-left media around St. Louis, like the Post-Dispatch, tried to poke holes in that and called it anecdotal. So we said, well, we don't mind making it something other than anecdotal. We'll ask our members. So we did this survey, and we find out the problem is far, far worse than we ever thought. And people want to pretend like the sky isn't blue, but you can look outside and see the color of the sky.
Yeah. What's the difference in pay scale between a city police officer and a St. Louis County police officer first year right out of the academy?
So they're going up to 53,000. Our officers make around 41. So you're talking about a $12,000 paid gap between the city and the county. But as you look at years of service, that number just keeps getting bigger when you look at more veteran officers. And the county is going to give credit to officers for their experience elsewhere and move them up in their pay matrix if they come from somewhere with experience. So once the county gets their matrix, a 20-year police officer in the city can leave the city, collect his pension for the rest of his life, and start out with the county making more than he was making with the city.
I thought the city was talking about it as some type of tax to make the pay more equitable.
Well, they want to put a sales tax on the ballot in November, and they're saying it's about police pay, but the mayor blocked an amendment in the Board of Aldermen that would have devoted about half of that money to police raises, and she won't agree to put it in writing that money is going to police raises. In fact, we had a union contract negotiation scheduled last Thursday that we were hoping we'd have some progress and the city would offer to make some guarantee about how much money from that sales tax is going to wages, and the mayor's bargaining team abruptly canceled that and has not offered a new date.
So as of now, is that tax increase on the ballot?
Yes, they voted to put it on the ballot. We have not come out in favor of it yet. We've got to hear from the mayor what number she has in mind, and we've got to put it in writing. We're not going to do a handshake deal and engage in a deception of the voters by pretending that this tax goes to police salaries when the city's not willing to put that in writing.
Let me make sure I understand this. You, who represents the St. Louis City police officers, have yet to endorse a sales tax increase proposal on the ballot that's supposed to go to raises until you are guaranteed that money will go to raises and or salary.
Right. The mayor and the Board of Aldermen should make a contract with the voters that the money is going to go where they say it's going to go.
Where else would it go if it's supposed to be on the ballot for police officer salaries?
Well, you remember 10 years ago or so, they passed Prop S that was supposed to go to raise police salaries and hire more police officers, and none of it is being spent for that purpose.
What's that money being spent for?
Some of it goes to fund the city's liability for pensions, which the past was being funded through their general fund, so they're using that money for something else now, and then the rest of it goes to aldermanic slush funds. So
you want this sales tax increase to be in writing, dedicated to police officers' increase in salaries and wages.
That's what my officers are going to demand, and that's what the voters are going to demand. I don't understand why the mayor and others think that they can pull a fast one on the voters by not making a commitment before the vote.
Yeah, and just so I understand this right, you can become an officer in the St. Louis City Police, go through the academy, get some training, and then leave after you're trained as a police officer and you get some years under your belt. You can go to the county and get credit for that time and be bumped up in pay even more, and then go to the county.
Yes.
Wow. All right, Jeff Rorta, anything else you want the people to know?
Well, just for the people listening, if you live or work in the city, call the alderman, call the mayor's office, tell them that you're demanding, that you're standing with the cops and you're demanding a commitment on this sales tax.
Jeff Rorta is business manager for the St. Louis Police Officers Association and a frequent guest on the show. Jeff, be safe. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, McGraw.
All right, 9:20.